Grid Edge World Forum 2016 in San Jose. I'm here with Andy Marshall. He's the Senior Product Manager at Landis+Gyr. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Katie, for having me. I'm excited to be chatting about the Grid Edge.
Yeah, absolutely. So speaking of the Grid Edge, metering companies are certainly not just metering companies anymore, and there's increased opportunities at the Grid Edge and in smart cities. Can you talk a little bit about how you define your value proposition to customers today?
Yeah, and it's changing. You're right. Metering companies are no longer just metering and telemetry companies anymore, right? And I think you have a choice. You know, metering companies can go deeper into the networks, or they can go into other solutions for utilities. And Landis has really sort of moved ahead on the other solutions for utilities, so helping the utility to get more value out of the network that they've built, right? So that for us is building solutions around grid analytics, advanced load management, storage and DG support for the utility. So that's really where we've gone. And we sort of made that transition pretty quickly, almost as quick as we were making the transition from a metering company to a telemetry and metering company back about 10 years ago. So our real vision is at the end of the day to help the utility to do more than just get the data, but to actually be able to take that from data to insight to action.
There's so much data being produced off of grid assets. So what are some of the assets that the utilities you're working with are most interested in metering and sensoring and then pulling that data back and, again, doing something with?
Yeah.
And how's that evolving?
That's a great question. So I think it moves a lot from just being able to monitor load and understand, what kind of load I'm seeing to be able to monitor and meter the new sources of generation on the grid. So the sources of electrons as opposed to just the sinks of electrons. So we're seeing a lot of customers looking more into that. So APS, for instance, is working with us to hook their smart inverters up to our network and to have that report back and to send commands down to those inverters to help improve power quality on their distribution grid as well. So that's one place where I think we're seeing a lot of customers ask us to hook new things up to their network to add value.
If we sit down and have this conversation in 5 years at Grid Edge World Forum, how do you think this conversation will have evolved in terms of what your customers are looking for?
Yeah, and I mean, we're seeing some of these questions. I mean, utilities are thinking 5 years ahead on a lot of this. So I think, one way I think we're going to be having a different conversation is around what kind of data, how much data, and how many disparate sources they're actually bringing in to do big data management, right? That's one thing I think will be different. Another thing that I think will be a little bit different will be around the engagement with the customer. So using data to actually engage their customer. We're seeing this already in the markets where there's competitive retailers. I think that's really something that's pushing things ahead. The other thing, and maybe not in 5 years, but it's in the near term. It's sort of the mix of analytics that the utility sort of homebrews, and then the stuff that's out of the box that the solutions providers were providing. I think that's going to be one place where we're going to see a lot of work over the next few years on the analytics side especially.
Yeah, in emerging markets, can you talk about that opportunity for smart city planning along with sort of utilities being ushered into the 21st century and how that looks different in some of the most attractive markets, not just in Asia, but worldwide, and how you guys are approaching that?
So another market that's interesting is South America. Again, we kind of do the 80-20 when we look at South America a little bit. There's some countries that are further ahead than others. We look at Argentina, Colombia, Brazil is ahead of it, and they're looking at things that are maybe a little bit different than the smart cities, but they're looking for things that are, how can I improve reliability quickly? And the other thing they're looking at is how do I, use this for revenue protection as well. So those are some of the things we're seeing in South America as they start to build out their AMI infrastructure.
Thank you so much for joining us here at Grid Edge World Forum.
Thank you, Katie. It was a pleasure.